Any question at any time from now on. The only other thing I thought I could also share is Victron setup, and this is just my typical VE Connect file that I've made a little document of, and I can run through that as well. But first, welcome everybody. Thank you for rejoining. And did you have any questions that you wanted to perhaps throw in at me about the presentation?
Can I just quickly address one question that we got in chat from Marius? You were saying that you would prefer if people use those 125 amp DC breakers, the one with the blue switch. Firstly, where do you buy them? And then secondly, are they approved for by SABS for use in South Africa?
Yes, I don't actually know where they are purchased. I have seen Get a Foot apparently has sold them. I know that some of my colleagues actually import them. I'm thinking of Murray, Tim. So I don't actually know where to get them per se, other than sort of standard electrical places. I have noticed that some people say that they are quite expensive, 600 to 800 Rand each. I have seen others though for about 400, and occasionally you can get them as an AC breaker, and that is not actually good enough for a DC system, because AC moves back and forth, and therefore a breaker is quite easy to build, because the magnetic forces are in one direction and then in the other direction, so that the trip switch can easily flick down, and a DC system is always up against the same pressure. So you do want to get a DC rated system, and yes, that is approved by SABS or whatever board it is that does approve them.
I once saw them on the Electromechanica website. So if you guys want to check Electromechanica, that might be an option. But you know, we'll just try and find Felix. Maybe it might be worth it to just talk to Scott and see if he can point us in the right direction.
Excellent, I'll do that. I definitely will.
I just want to go in order. So we did get a question from Marius also to discuss our warranty conditions and the implementation to prevent any problems. I don't know if Marius can maybe just unmute himself, you know, and we can maybe address that.
Dolby, Felix, thank you for your webinar. Yes, we just have we've noticed something in the warranty documentation that it must be an authorized installer on your site. And yeah, like I said to you or explained to you telephonically, we would just like to know all the rules and regulation. We don't want any trouble should we have a warranty issue later on, that we adhere to all the requirements from your side for your product.
Okay, so the main thing about the warranties is you must not bypass the BMS that voids the warranties, because of the lack of control that you then have over yourselves. The easiest way to judge about abuse and so forth would be, if anything is blown, that tends to be abuse. And of all the systems that I've seen that have come back blown, there was actually one that I saw that I would deem to be a manufacturing error, only because it was so bizarre. It bypassed all current possibilities, all voltage possibilities, everything like that. And so I've got it as a warranty claim in the BMS. So in terms of your actual DC circuitry, please put in those fuses. follow the guideline that I've done. If you all were at my previous webinar, I did show you the Victron guideline, which basically says please use quite thick cable for your various installations. The Victron, for example, for a 24-volt system, basically from half a meter DC length, it immediately says, no, you must still use 50 mil cable. And for the equivalent in the 48-volt system, it says you can use 35 mil. So anyway, my point there is just please follow those sort of guidelines. Basically, if you are doing a safe DC electrical circuit thing and installation, and you're following the industry standards, international industry standards, then you know you're in good stead. Perhaps the biggest flaw I've seen when I actually go to sites is not the DC circuitry. That's maybe let's say 10–15% of the errors, physical errors. The biggest physical error I see is that they put the batteries on the ground in the corner of the garage or something like that. The temptation is, because they're in a nice steel box, is to use that box. You know, it's can be displayed in the big orange color, but you use that box as a structural integrity system and just put it in the corner against the wall. However, if you have a person who's been very liberal with their mopping of the floor of the garage, or there's a rainstorm and there's a flood, the water on the floor will get into that battery, and it's perhaps the worst thing you can do to a lithium piece of metal is throw water on. So obviously, water damage like that is insanely wrong. So yes, prevent all over voltages, prevent all over currents, and prevent water. That will guarantee your warranties. I do believe that there is a terms and conditions page that has all these things down on the thing, and Marius, I think I can send it to you after this call.
Thank you, Felix. I just want to clarify, the warranty conditions said that it must be approved installer. How do we obtain that approval status or something from your side? I know about all the recommendations, we must keep the industry standards, but I'm just worried there's some of accreditation that we need to obtain to adhere to those warranty conditions.
Actually, that's normally there to make sure that you have, some sort of industry approval or some sort of industry, what would you call it? Qualification. Thank you. So I can look into that and come back to you. But yeah, so I'm more on the technical side. But yes, it basically means you have to be a qualified electrician and familiar with or qualified with DC systems, and that's the guideline. I do have one or two people who who can evaluate you, as it were, and assist in getting your expertise up. If you have any doubts or hesitations, or what's the word for it, concerns on that matter. But just for example, Nathan of Hanox Engineering down in Boksburg, I rate him quite highly, and having a conversation with him would probably be the most fruitful in that case. So I can arrange a meeting like that to discuss those sort of qualification concerns if need be.
Okay, thanks, Felix. Yeah, like I said, I just want to comply with your warranty conditions. So I don't want after a few months or years, if there's something wrong, I don't want to hear then I've missed something, or I'm not a registered installer, and for that reason the warranty won't be honored. So that's my only reason for the question. We do install quite a lot of other battery systems as well. But yes, that subject in the warranty document was just a bit worrying to us as a group, the All Solar group.
Gotcha. Maybe I can get one or two guys to come with me and we do a review of one of your sites and start getting an idea of how you match that sort of qualifier, you know. So it's a fairly decent question on that note. I'll try and arrange a meeting of that nature, you know, that you go to one of your sites and go through all the systems. I think the main thing, if I were going to evaluate a site for quality reasons, would obviously be the fuse and the breakers and the bus bar. I've had sites with 2 or 3 battery sets without a bus bar, and or that's done even worse. They put a bus bar in and then have bypassed the bus bar. So one client in Pretoria had 2 beautiful copper bus bars, and then everything went through on the breaker, the pull breaker, the fuse breaker. So that's just something that's a concern. All that said, the majority of time, and like 80–90%, the majority of the time that I have seen issues on sites actually been on the solar side. So either not enough solar, or some solar connections, or misconnections, or that sort of stuff. So that's the most likely source of most of the errors on the site. So yeah, be it as it may.
All right, thanks, Felix. Appreciate it.
Just caught my eye. Anita saying to me, yes, 10 photographs. Actually, I would love photographs. My email is felix@revov.coza, and especially if someone is bringing a site to my attention, if they have an issue with the site or something like that, or even if they just want to report the site. And as a matter of fact, I do think it's part of the warranty registration is to send a couple of pictures of the site. Anita, it's so spot on. If you can give me a picture of the inverter and batteries and the cables leading up to it, there's about 3 or 4 pictures. That's normally an instant clue for me to respond and give some sort of feedback, but it also gives us some idea of where the system is. So it's actually quite a solid idea. As a matter of fact, I have been, if someone calls in with a site issue, I have been asking them to send me a couple of photographs of the issue and of the site, and any data that they might have from the Victron or the Mercer or the Grow, whatever it is, and so we can get a clear view.
Felix, it's Steve here. Just a question from Paul Helberg. He's asking, is Revov compatible with all inverters or only a few?
Only a few. By that I mean I should actually share that last slide then. Let me go to... Give me a second while I share the screen. I don't mean to be pausing in. Okay, so hopefully you can all see that. This is a table that I update on a regular basis. And I have just taken out a snapshot of the most popular inverters, either globally or in South Africa. And I've given it a rating just in 3 different colors. And so, just for example, Microcare is the South African inverter. It is actually quite a decent inverter. I've been quite impressed with it. And while I'm not fully tested, I have done 2 or 3 of them. It's been quite nice and quite solid. So I can hopefully soon move that into a fully compatible scenario. Number 10, SunSync. That one's Revov compatible. That's a recent addition. So to that question, these are the top 21 inverters that I know of, or there might be others, but they could be the same as the number 3, the Expert Mercer Voltronics, and they are compatible, and I will do that for any others as we move ahead. The one that is going to be coming on this list, for example, is a Focus, which is a Germanized version of the Expert or Voltronics inverter. And yeah, I'm busy doing that with you right now. I don't think it'd be any different to the line number 3, which is that it's compatible, but it is terrific, and I'm busy working with that now. To that point, I'm also, when I finish something, I try and put it as a guidance sheet on the web page. And Steve, the guy who was talking to a moment ago, he actually beats me up every now and again to clear a sheet or to add a new sheet or that sort of stuff. So just for him, for example, I'm going to be sending a Focus sheet soon. So good question.
Felix, just on the Goodware one specifically, I just remember reading in the terms, and this is now a few years ago, that they do require the most recent firmware versions for their warranties. So I just would put an asterisk on that. All the firmware may be required, but I do know the old yellow ones are compatible, but I'm not sure if the new white ones can actually be flashed backwards.
Yeah, I have done 2 white ones now. I think that's the ES.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah, and it's been actually quite nice. Well, in both cases, the user knows that I don't have communication between the BMS and the inverter, and so he has a shutoff at a low end voltage. But in both cases, they know when they wake up in the morning to go and have a look at the inverter and just make sure that they are sitting above 49 volts, and it's a straight drag. On that note, though, I am working on getting a inverter that can speak to BMS that can speak to the Goodware, and just feed it with the socket information that it needs. But Goodware in particular, just for everyone else's edification, Goodware does not use voltage, even though it's in an engineering sense the best way to run a lithium battery. It uses SOC, state of charge, and yeah, I know other people have opinions that state of charge is probably better, but just as engineering talking, I prefer the maths of the voltage. But anyway, Goodware, I'm going to be getting a solution for that as we move on down through this year. Has been put in a little bit of a hold by COVID, but we're working on it.
We've got a question from Hakon Nissen in the chat regarding the 24-volt BMSs and just the status on them. Any issues surrounding them. If you can maybe just shed some light on that.
Okay. Okay, we have the 24-volt BMS. We actually have two. I have one that's locally made, and I can order them quickly with a quick turnaround. It is quite nice because you get an LCD screen on the front of it, and you can tap through the screen and see the overall voltage and the cell voltages and the temperatures, and whether it's balancing. You know, there's a little balance indicator, the charge indicator, the discharge indicator. That's all on the little LCD screen. The device is quite competent. I've got a big 224 set up here with two 24-volt BMSs that I can use to power this whole building. It seems to balance very well. I've actually been reasonably impressed with it. I am getting a version soon that, again, COVID related, that will be able to talk to the expert inverters. There's obviously some experts. I think the Grow Watt is probably the most common one that I'm expecting to be able to communicate with. The big thing about 24-volt BMSs is they tend to be a retrofit. So the client tends to have a 24-volt system with lead acid systems, and they swap it out with a one big lithium battery, and then they put in there the 24-volt BMS, and they connect it to a 24-volt inverter. And the big jump is current. So for the same power, you're doubling the current. And lithium is obviously hitting a roof at 150 amps, and that's effectively 4,000. Excuse me. 4,000. That's not COVID. 4,000 watts. So the direct correlation that everyone has to do when they walk into from a 48-volt to a 24-volt system is to know that current is your limiting factor. The power is not a problem. The inverter is drawing all the power, everything, but your current then becomes very quickly a limiting factor. As soon as you put on the kettle and the microwave, you're probably going to bomb out your system. But then you just add another 24-volt battery and BMS if need be. Over.
Alex?
Yes, Tommy.
I've just posted the question. Are you aware of any issues or problems connecting to a 5-year-old micro-K inverter? Is there any firmware, any other upgrades? Do I need to go back to micro-K to verify from their end?
I'm sorry, the audio is a little bit poor, but I can see your question there. I'm not aware of any snag per se. The 5-year-old micro-K converters or inverters may not be lithium battery compatible in general. So it would be worth checking with micro-K. I know they've put a lot of effort into it recently, and they are doing a fantastic job, I think. I'm quite impressed, actually. So yes, you probably want to have that conversation with micro-K just to check what their compatibility is with lithium batteries in particular. Lithium batteries obviously having their own BMSs and having such a narrow voltage band, basically between 54 volts and 50 volts for the entire 200 amp hours. So you probably just want to have that discussion with them. I have got a very wealthy estate up north in Pretoria, where for some reason everyone there seemed to have microcares, and all of them doing brilliantly. The one client I actually was at had a massive solar field. I forget how many panels. Feeding 2 MPPTs, feeding 1 inverter and 2 battery sets. And with 1 or 2 tweaks, he was actually up and humming. So very good product, very good product. But please, 5-year-old.
Felix, I just want to shed some light on that with some of my customers. The older microcare inverters generally need upgraded breakers at the bottom. Their older breakers could only handle lead acid batteries, and we unfortunately found that out after a few were connected, and then there were some issues with their breakers. But I believe microcare does that upgrade for free on older systems, but please do check with them.
Inverter, and I also had to so sometimes you do experiencing issues.
Kobus, we're really struggling to hear you. Maybe if you can just type into the chat.
I'll try. I don't know, there's something wrong, I think, with my microphone in this end. What I basically said is, out of the Blue Nova, which I've used on a 15 kilowatt microcare inverter, I had to replace the firmware to get it working.
I'm sorry, sir. That was very, very broken up.
Okay, what I will do is I'll just put a comment on the question part. So,
Okay. Sorry, Darby, I was hoping you'd get a better interpretation.
No, I'm sorry, I didn't. Yeah, Kobus, if you can maybe just post your chat like into the chat box, that would be great.
Exactly.
If anyone else has a question, maybe.
I have just been told I've got 7 minutes left to this meeting. So we should probably look at wrapping it up. If everyone who wants a copy of that presentation wants me to send it to you, of course I will. We will also post it on the web page. Marius, you wanted to know about stock? Yes, we have stock right now, and looks like there's no hindrance in terms of getting more stock. So we're still coming in and bringing in all the time. As a matter of fact, the lockdown, while it did impact, I think, the first 2, maybe 3 weeks of the port, is now the port is now operating fairly consistently, fairly easily. They are still demanding essential services and essential or emergency services certificates, which I'm afraid we can't even give you any supply until you have that. So as long as the legal and logistical and legislative requirements are met, we do have stock, and yes, we still bring it up. And on the stock side, every time I interact with China, I give them a little bit more of what I want on the batteries or the BMS, and they seem to be responding quite well. and making slight modifications and improving the quality of the connections or whatever. So yes, not only are we getting stock, but the stock seems to be getting better and better. Everyone, before the machine cuts me off.
Hi, can I say something?
Please.
Hello.
I need to go ahead, but it's been a light to you.
Sorry, I quickly found Quibus to just hear what he's got to say, and he says he just wanted to add that he once had a Blue Nova that he wanted to connect to an old microcare, and they had to do quite a few attempts with a software upgrade or firmware upgrade before it was working properly. But yeah, so it is possible, but it might take some patience.
Correct. Yeah. Thank you very much, Anita, for following up. I'm delighted with you.
Thanks.
Yeah, that's basically what I said and what Darby said, that with microcare, just especially if an older machine, make sure that with microcare that you can connect to a lithium battery and so forth. But just so you know, they have been doing a lot of very good work on their machines. So the new machines are very nice machines. Thank you, Anita. Very nice to see you. Okay, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us, and a double thanks for being kind enough to rejoin after we were cut off there. I will be doing more of these things. I think we want to try and do it at least once a month, maybe even a little bit earlier. But yeah, at any time that you have directions or demands from me, I can actually put together the presentation and just run through all of the things. So share with us whatever your questions are, and yeah, delighted to have you all. Thank you very much.